Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the She Network, where we're going to venture into the unknown, even the uncomfortable, as we step out of our comfort zone and challenge what is possible. Every single one of us has something valuable to share, yet there may be times when you feel you can't get your voice heard and your ideas out there. Maybe it's imposter syndrome or not knowing how to create that new opportunity for yourself. And then when you are ready to go and share your ideas, how do you prepare and convey its value to your audience and feel good about the process, ready to inspire others to do the same? I'm delighted to welcome today's guest, Bella Abeng, product manager from Kinetic Software, who believes that everyone has something valuable to share. So when it comes to speaking up and putting yourself out there, you can challenge yourself and make it happen. We're also joined by Trina Everall, founding member of the She Network, who has bravely ventured into the unknown in her career, growing her own successful business story. Trina and Bella, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
And
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Bella, it'd be great if you could start by just telling us a bit about yourself and why you wanted to work in marketing.
It's always a difficult question to answer when they say, "Oh, tell me a bit about yourself." We can talk about other people, but it's difficult to talk about yourself. But I would say, I'll start off first. In my current role, I work as a product marketing manager at Kinetic. Been at Kinetic for 2 years. I'm also a proud mum of three wonderful boys,
Oh,
very three young boys. And I suppose outside of work, I volunteer as a youth leader and also a leader of a women's group in my local church. So um, I enjoy, I think I get a lot of passion out of giving back to people and helping out in any way, shape, or form I can to people those in need. So that's probably charity work or anything that I can do to pour into others as other people pour into me. Is something that I definitely enjoy doing, and I get so much, happiness out of it. So yeah, I would say that's me in a nutshell.
I love that. Pour into
I
others.
know. I was just going to say that pouring into others what they pour into me. It's lovely.
Yeah.
You might pinch that, Bella.
Yeah.
And live by those words, obviously. But
And yeah, it's just so nice to hear when somebody takes that stance of just wanting to give and
Mm.
to think about how you can help other people. I think that's a great kind of start for this conversation. So you're working in marketing. What is it that you like about marketing? Why marketing as a kind of a
Oh,
sector?
Interesting question. So I, like a lot of people, actually fell into marketing kind of like by accident. So I started off, came out of uni, not sure what to do with myself. Applied for an internship role with the NHS for a community group, and there was a director there at that time who had a background in marketing and pharmaceuticals. So I was doing a bit of like website work. I was getting involved in campaigns. So they had different campaigns like breastfeeding, stop smoking, and I was getting involved in that and I was enjoying it. I was really enjoying seeing how we can take something that they want to achieve, some ideas, and turn that into a campaign that will bring in results, seeing how the receptive people are to the campaigns and see, oh, yes, people are joining, people are loving it, people are signing up for this, and all the graphic stuff. So I'm very creative, come from a very creative family. So I enjoyed doing it. And he said, oh, do you know what? I think you have a gift for marketing. And I was like, marketing? What's that? So I just went on this first researching and signed up for my CIM and decided, actually, this is something that I think I would enjoy doing. Turns out I'm good at it and I enjoy it very well. And it's one of those things that I say to people, please don't tell my bosses, but I could do this for free. I enjoy it so much. Marketing is a passion of mine. So I think it's just the goal orientation. Every project is different. The campaign, coming up with ideas, brainstorming, working collaboratively with people, and seeing results come to life, and being really creative with it. And that's what I really enjoy about marketing. Yeah.
Working for free. I think that's a sign that you really love your job when you say something like that. I think it's the goal for all of us to
Mm.
just have that passion and that, yeah,
Mm.
that yeah, desire to keep going and keep innovating. I guess a good question around this conversation would be if you looked at yourself 4 or 5 years ago to where you are now in the lens of that kind of comfort zone, like how do you see yourself as different now to then?
Oh, interesting question. I think comparing myself to about 5 years ago, I think I'm a lot more confident now. I understand my value a lot more now. Um, I've been given space to grow. I've been allowed to be challenged and to overcome certain obstacles that has led me to actually, I didn't know I could do that, but now I've done it. I'm like, yay, we're there. Now I can feel more confident. I can cross the next hurdle as things go on. So I think looking back 5 years till now, say I'll see growth. I see growth. I see somebody who understands her value a bit more, has a bit more sense of purpose and direction in her life. Somebody who's overcome challenges and is at the other side of those challenges, and has sort of won the belts to help fight future battles.
That's such a positive way of thinking about your own development and growth, isn't it? Like that, I think it can be so easy to look back and think, oh, I wish I'd known then what I'd know now, and I wish I'd done this differently, or I wish I'd done that. And
Yeah.
actually, the way you're describing it, I think I need to think a bit more like that. I've grown, these are things that I've learned, and it's all part of the journey.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. I mean, you can always look back and beat yourself up on the mistakes you made, right? But you can't go back and erase them. And I think we are so much better for going through certain paths that may not have been the perfect path, but then from it you take lessons, and then you're able to teach others not to walk that same path so that they don't fall into the same dangers. I think that's something that really helps me, especially in my role when I do like my volunteer work with youth as a youth leader. I see teenagers that are coming up and like, when you're choosing your subjects, don't feel pressured to go down a certain path. Think about what you're really good at. Think about what you're passionate about. Think about the future, and make those decisions that you will be happy about in the future for what you're doing now. It's because I've made those mistakes. I then say, I really want to help you not to make those mistakes as well, so you can have a better story to tell than me. And I think it is fine to have had difficulties, but overcoming them is what's important, and then being able to then pass on the knowledge to others to help them to overcome theirs is also very important.
Totally agree with that.
I was looking on Instagram the other day. I follow a lot of CrossFitters, right? Don't get me started on CrossFit. That could be a whole webinar on itself. But there was somebody that a really big figure that's just retired, and she said that it's only failure if you set it as a destination. And I loved that. It's really stuck with me, that it's that, of course there's challenges and bumps in the road and things that don't go right, but that's not the destination. It's just a stepping stone or journey. And to your point, having different bouts to fight future battles, I'm definitely banking that, because it's true, isn't it? They're in your toolkit for the future then. But it doesn't happen by chance. I think you need to have a certain mentality to learn from them and actually put yourself out there. And I know, Bella, you there was a big step that you made around an annual conference that you wanted to speak at, and that you put yourself out there for, and really challenged yourselves and stepped out of your comfort zone. Are you happy to share your experience there with us?
Yeah, so I think I was talking to a trainer about this. It was completely on the whim. I was like, oh, what possessed you to do that, Bella? And I was like, please, I was on a high, okay? So just to give a background to that story. So Kinetic has an annual conference every year. Since joining Kinetic, I've not been part of the planning team previously that organized the entire event. And we haven't done it for a while. So there was a lot of pressure to put on this massive event and make it the best one ever, even though nobody had prior knowledge of how previous ones have been. And we invited a motivational speaker called Marcus Childs. None of us have heard of Marcus Childs, but our CEO has, and completely raved about him. So I was in that room on a Monday night when he was doing a keynote, and he was talking about push that extra step further, just give it that one more push, just that one more go. And his talk was really around persistent and pushing ahead, but he also talked about the compound effect and the fact that we need to have a picture. And he asked the question, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Is that picture big enough? And I said to myself, what would my picture be? So I actually recorded that because I was just loving the talk, and the entire talk, and the whole 45 minutes, absolutely life-changing. And I put on my notes on my phone, what could my picture be? And because I was in the room where there's a keynote speaker on stage, immediately I thought, what if I could do that? And I wrote that in my notes. But it was like a spur of a moment thought. Wrote it in my note, but didn't really think much of it. So after the talk, our CEO comes up to me. Mind you, we had another keynote person who did a whole sustainability talk and then asked everybody questions. The room was silent and I decided, actually, I have something to contribute. So I spoke. At that moment, Luke, our CEO, had taken a picture of me speaking for the first time, like in a massive room full of people, being a shy person that I am. And so he was like, oh, Bella spoke, let me capture this. And he took a picture. So he asked me, how's the conference? And I was like, and he asked me, what's your picture? And I said, I'm going to speak at next year's conference. And I was like, that's amazing, Bella. Let's do it. The way he said it, I was like, I don't take you seriously. But then he kept going on. And I was like, yeah, sure. So then I said to my line manager, Rob, that, you know what, I was talking to Luke and he was also asking me about, what do you think about the conference? I was like, I was talking to Luke and I said, I'm going to speak at next year's conference. And he was like, let's make it happen, Bella. I can help you make it happen. I was like, both of you are delusional. let's not do this. But then lo and behold, I think I completely ignored that. We're planning the next year's conference. We've had a slot for marketing, not knowing that they've been bickering amongst themselves about who's going to do that slot. And they said, and then Ali came to me and said, who's the head of CX and head of sort of organizing the event, and said, oh, Bella, you've been assigned to look after the marketing slot. I was like, okay, I can find some great people who can do that. So I started reaching out to my network and said, okay, this person can do it, that person can do it. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the right people to do it. And there was a marketing director in Valaris, who's our parent company, who I reached out and said, Emma, can you do this talk? And so I told Emma the story, and Emma said, Bella, I would love to do the talk, but I think you should do it. But I'm going to help you do it.
Oh, brilliant.
So we decided that we would do it together. But the entire time, she just kept coaching me, saying, I think you're going to smash it. You can do this without me, Bella. And I was like, no, not going to happen. You're doing it. You're doing it. So that's in essence sort of how it all sort of started, really. I think I've waffled on for quite a long time about this. But yeah, that's how it all started.
And so am I right in thinking the conference has happened?
Yes. So 2 days before, or should I say the Friday before we go and do the conference, Emma sends me a message and says, unfortunately, she can't make it. We've prepped this, we've put the content together, we've done our research, all of that. And then I realized I have to speak not just for one workshop, I have to do two, because we decided to do two. And so the conference actually happened on the 4th of November at Warwick, the Slate. And I was able to do 2 marketing workshop sessions. And I actually spoke in a room full of people twice, one back to back.
Amazing. Well done.
Well done. Yeah, well done. How did you feel afterwards?
All sorts of emotions. I still had the nerves of being there the entire time. I think I still had a residue of that. But I was really proud of myself. And I smiled a lot because I was like, gosh, just did that. So I was definitely proud of myself. I was definitely feeling, I'm glad that I did it. No regrets at all whatsoever. And it just made me think, if I had said no, I would not have had this opportunity. And I would have missed out for something, not just given to other people, but also something that would have been really impactful for myself. So I was really, really glad that I did it, definitely.
Also, the fact that Emma dropped out a couple of days before, the stress of that, to be able to just get on with it and get on stage and deliver it yourself. That's hard. That's really hard.
It is. It definitely is. Yeah.
And she poured her cup into you, didn't she? And that she mentored you. She believed in you. Do you think you'll do more of them? Has this kind of opened up your mind to speaking at other events?
Yeah, definitely. I would love to. The thing is, I was saying to Trina, I'm not new to speaking. The difficulty with this one was I was speaking to a room full of people who have been in the industry longer than I am, been doing marketing and comms longer than I have. And my question was, what do I have that will be of value to them? They're more experienced than me. So that I was getting really strong imposter syndrome. Like I was like, I haven't walked their walk to come and tell them this is how they ought to do it better. So I think that was what made it really nerve-wracking for me. So I've had speaking opportunities at company events and, outside of work. But if it's a subject I know very well, I'm okay. But it's not that I didn't know very well, but I had to sort of give value to them in a role that I haven't walked in. So that's what made it really, really sort of difficult for me. And I think what Emma did was give me the steering. So initially it was all about, okay, how are the big brands doing marketing that we can sort of teach HE student teams and conferencing teams to sort of make their marketing a lot better. And Emma was like, oh, that's all well and great, but remember they have big budgets. You have to bring it home. What could they practically do now that would make a difference to them? And I was like, oh, right, if we don't know, let's find out. So then it meant that I went off researching, asking people within our network, our customer base, to say, can you provide examples of really good things that you've done campaign wise so that we can help share those with others to also learn how to do their marketing. And I think it's those things that took me on a learning journey. And then all it meant was I was sharing what I've learned back to the people that needed to learn from it as well. And I think that was a difference. Now I had to ask myself, what do I do that maybe others don't do that could add value to them as well? So that's like looking at, what do I do in marketing? What tools am I using? What's my approach? What's my tactics and strategy? What am I doing? It might be small. And in fact, the bit that I thought wasn't meaningful at all, which was the tools and the tactics that I use, that I thought everybody knows about that. It turns out they don't. So those were the bits where people thought, oh my gosh, I love that. Can you send me that particular slide? It was a big shock and an eye opener to me, because I was like, that's probably like the least important. In fact, it was at the very back end of the presentation. I was like, that's the least important part, but that was the most impactful part that people took away from it. But it just goes to show again that we all have something that if we share it out, it would be of benefit to somebody who doesn't have that. And that was a key eye opener for me from the whole experience.
Also, one of the things that people are best at is telling their own story. So when you explaining about what the tools that you use and the way that you work, I don't know how you might have expressed that at the time, but I mean, it's a fact that whenever we're talking about our own experiences, we are just so much more confident with it. We're more relaxed with it. It's easier to search for those things in the back of your head that you go to and that you do. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that that's the stuff that really resonated. Hearing something fresh from, that was a great thing to do.
That's definitely true. That is definitely true.
It's like, whenever you go to, like when you're involved in a workshop or anything, like whenever we deliver a workshop, we start with getting people to talk about themselves, even like with this webinar today, and that that just helps people kind of relax into things as well and be able to be more open. So that's really interesting that's what they thought too.
No, that was definitely an eye-opener for me.
So if we were to give our network some practical advice then, because this is definitely something I hear a lot, both from people that I mentor and kind of in my career, that firstly, everyone has an idea, an expertise. We're all in work, right? Like we've all got a job. We all bring value wherever we were, and we've all got something to bring to the table. But there is often this feeling that, well, what if my idea is not good enough, or no one listens to it, or if it gets shot down, or actually I'm really scared. Like, I don't know how to like verbalize kind of this idea or present it. I've not done it before, or the thought of going to a conference terrifies me. But all that being said, there is still an idea and there is still value. What advice would you give to somebody that has a lot to bring to the table, but they're not sure exactly how to do it?
I think for me, I'm very I think my faith plays a huge part in it's like an underlying fundamental part of me. My faith is a very strong part of me. I think it makes me think, okay, um it makes me have a very optimistic view about the world. And that, I remember Marcus Child's talk as well, when Marcus Child said, oftentimes we think about what's like the worst that could happen. We don't often think about what's the best that could happen. And that's one way I think I would advise that people would like overcome those thought processes. Often at times we are our own blocker to our own growth when an opportunity presents itself, or you could be in a room full of people and you're like, I don't normally talk, but you have a query, a question, but immediately you start thinking, what would other people think about me or about what I say? Would they think I'm dumb? Would they think I'm not clever enough? Would they think all these different things, but kind of like irrational thoughts? And nobody is thinking those things, but we're thinking it on their behalf, and it's wasted energy. So we have to learn to sort of turn that around and reframe it. That's probably the worst case scenario. What's the best case scenario? You do contribute and it turns things around. We need to sort of contrast that. Yes, those fear moments help us to stop, us embarrassing ourselves or making a fool of ourselves in certain circumstances, but it often hinders us from growing or pushing ourselves forward. And I think once we reframe that and start thinking, okay, what's the best that could happen? It sparks a new energy to then working towards making that thing come true and become a reality. And I think that's very, very important. But it's also important to have the right support network. If you were to speak up in a room full of people and you have friends in those rooms, you're more confident to speak up because they've got your back. So I think having a support system around you is very, very important and very, very key. And in my case, I had people that believed that I could do it. I had people that said, yes, let's make it happen. If I didn't have those voices, it wouldn't have happened. I think that's also very important. It's not all on us. This often feels like, oh, you've got your dreams, you've got your ideas, you've got your ambitions, and you think it's you that has to do it. Remember, you're surrounded by loved ones who would help support you to make it happen if you allow them in your space. And I think that's very, very important, having that community, but also having somebody that will hold you accountable. And I think Emma did that for me as well. Me trying to go off on a tandem, looking at brands and the ones with big budgets, it's actually, no, rein it in. Bring something that you've got and add this to this, because that's what people need from you. It is about you and the value you bring. And I think that's very, very important. If you see yourself as somebody who does have something to bring forward, and you sort of quieten the voices of the negativity, it would help you sort of step forward and shine a bit more. So I think reframing it and also giving yourself opportunity to speak up in smaller moments. If you're not used to speaking up, don't go and stand in the massive stadium and make noise. Start maybe from the smaller moments of, in a smaller group of people, speak up then. It may just be an idea, it may just be a feedback, it may just be a comment. That's okay. Especially the ones that may not have any rebuttal. Start there and you start to build those belts to fight the bigger battles. So do it in micro moments, and that builds up to a major moment where you'll definitely conquer, you'll definitely overcome. And then you realize and look back, like you asked me 5 years ago, how compare yourself now. You definitely look back and see the growth, because you've known and been intentional about overcoming those micro moments so that you can then overcome the bigger moments as well.
And those micro moments, I think that's really great advice, because it's really easy to see, okay, I've got an idea and there's the conference, or I've got an idea and this is us taking it to market. But there are so many steps before that, and there are so many people that you can speak to. Like, you could speak to your manager, your mentor, your colleague, even a client, someone in your network, your family. Vocalize it, be held accountable. I actually shared something on LinkedIn, I think yesterday. Sarah Davis from Dragon's Den, a fantastic businesswoman, she put something about she'd gone for a run, she's held herself accountable, I'm doing this tomorrow. She put it out there because she wanted to be accountable. She wanted to show the world, actually, I need to do this. And everyone's like, come on, Sarah, you can do it. And they're doing the same. And I think once you've actually said you want to do something, I'm sure Trina, when you started Story, I bet there was a journey there when you wanted to start your own business, between saying it and doing it. And I'm sure that required a lot of stepping out of your comfort zone and trying new things.
Yeah, a journey of about 2 years of thinking about it, talking about it with friends, not really doing anything about it, writing down ideas, going back on myself. And yeah, actually, I started Story with somebody else. I feel like we both needed the accountability of one another and the support of one another and the confidence. And like you were just saying, Bella, realizing that you're not alone, you don't have to do everything alone. And we still work together, but we're not like part of the business together anymore, and like that's okay because we supported one another to get to where we wanted to be for that time. It was also right in the middle of the first lockdown as well, so there was all kinds of oh my gosh, all kinds of other stress going on too. But actually, what I've done more recently to hold myself accountable is to reach out to friends or colleagues and ask them if they have the capacity to support me, with a catch up once a month or once a quarter, whatever they can offer, even if it's 30 minutes or something, it never ends up being 30 minutes. They're always way more generous with their time. But, I set the agenda and I ask for their input, and that has been so helpful to move me on to the next stage each time. So yeah, we're all talking about either mentoring or being mentored, and that's such a huge thing to be able to support someone with or be supported with, isn't it? It's like you need it from both. You need both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real gift to be mentored and to mentor somebody.
Yeah.
I was thinking then when I set up Prompt, and just a point that I guess I learned from setting up my businesses, there's a lot you don't know when you've got an idea. You can see the idea, you can, like to your point, Bella, around when you were doing the conference and it was a topic that you had to research. There's a lot you don't know. You've got to go off and learn it, and then you've got to present it, still not really knowing it. And I think that's a very humbling experience and one that you learn a lot from, and that I certainly surprised myself with. I remember some of those early pitches at Prompt where I'm pitching things that I haven't really worked with before, but I understand, but maybe not the details behind it. And that for me was a massive step out of my comfort zone, because I didn't have the things in my back of my brain, Trina, that you mentioned that you can just kind of pick up and say automatically. And that kind of taught me that actually you have to learn all the time, and you have to get really confident working with new things if you want to do something new yourself. And that always learning, always being curious and investing in yourself really, really helped. Thank you so much, Bella. I've written down loads of notes, and I actually think this is going to be so valuable for a lot of our followers who do want to execute an idea or speak at a conference or an event, or just have more of a voice in the places that they're in. And really appreciate your time with us. I do have a couple of questions for you. One, next 5 years, where's Bella going there? And secondly, I'd love to hear about your 3 boys. How old are they? How are they doing? And how on earth are you managing all of motherhood and your successful career?
Next 5 years. So I do have a picture in mind of where I would like to get to. Definitely in marketing in a very senior role, but also speaking a lot, which is interesting. I see a lot more visions of that, and it's actually somebody actually said to me at the conference that really touched my heart. Said to me, "You've got a big future ahead of you," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so touching." So it is definitely in my books. I have the support around me to make it happen, so I can definitely see a future of Bella, and to be revealed, but I can definitely see a massive future for myself, which I'm very, very grateful for. And my boy, so I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. 10-year-old, super artistic, amazing artist. Definitely got the gift somehow from me, but so much better than me. And yeah, so motherhood, balancing it all. I think for my boys, one thing I always think about is something that my midwife said to me. So if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after your kids. And you often sort of tend to, oh, I'm going to sacrifice so much for them because they come first. It's like, actually, if you work on yourself, you then have more to give. And so you can't pour out of an empty cup. So as much as you can pour into yourself, the overflow people will be able to tap into, then you're not burnt out, then you're not lacking in anything. So I think what I'm doing to say, if I can create a future that allows them to have a better future, that's my role. Let me do that. So I'm pushing my career, I'm pushing in all my volunteering activities, things that I do outside of work, and at home, in the hope that the future for them is a lot brighter. And it is a joy, So I'm balancing it in that way. And I think it gives me the energy. It gives me the energy to go that extra mile, to stay up a little bit longer, look at my goals and think, I'm not doing it for me, just me. Because if you're doing it for you, you can give up easily. But when you know that others that are, attached to that your success means that other people also have a success, or your success means that other people have a better future, it makes that goal a lot more stronger and purposeful. And I think that's what's driving me to sort of try and balance it all. But also be very forgiving as well when I don't do things the way I should have, and realizing that I'm also on a journey. I will trip up, but it's okay. Let me learn from it. I know how to fix it next time. Even if I trip again, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, and we'll get there.
Oh my goodness, your positivity is so infectious. Like I can see you and Trina, we're just like beaming. Yeah, it's been such a good conversation, and I have no doubt you do have a very bright future ahead of you, one that I can't wait to follow. And I hope that we can see you present in action. And we'll share a link to your LinkedIn page so people can follow you. So do keep us updated with what's coming up. And just thanks again for being part of this webinar and for joining the network. And we just wish you all the very best for the future.
Yeah,
thanks you.
So thank you for everyone listening. You've been listening to the She Network, a network by women for women working within Marcoms within the HE sector. As many of you know, we are here to support and share our experiences, and we want to hear from you. So please do let us know what you thought of today's webinar, what future topics you'd like us to talk about, and also if you'd like to take part. So all that's left to say is wishing you a brilliant day, weekend, and thanks for all of us, and we will see you again soon.
I will add one last thing, Marcella, if that's okay.
Go for it.
Anybody that's watched this episode and thinks, I'm going to dare myself to speak up, I dare you to reach out to Marcella or Trina and say, let me be on this network. Yeah. That is my dare to everybody that's listening. Make it happen for you, and let's talk about it.
We are here ready to listen. Thank you, Bella. That's great advice. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.